bullying.
What a nerd.
It comes from uncertainty. And this is why the new kid gets bullied the most, because he's a stranger, and stranger equals danger. And if you're danger to me, then you're a threat to me.
That's probably the most concrete explanation.
Jared Scott, the frontliner of the teen mental health crisis.
Schools feel it, parents feel it, communities feel it, but no one feels it more than teens themselves.
Through music and tools that help students face their mental battles, Jared is helping them fight back, build community, save lives.
You know the law of conservation of energy? It's that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred from one form to another. If you take pain or any negative emotion, which is energy, into consideration, like, it's not going nowhere. So you do have to do something with it. You suppress it, it becomes depression. You express it, it becomes an expression.
What are some of your personal best ways of engaging with audiences?
I think that we as human beings relate through our feelings. The reason you don't reach people when you're trying to reach people is because you're trying to pretend like you know exactly what it's like to be them. I show up just talking about how it feels to be me and encouraging them to tell me how it feels to be them, and then we can relate through mutual feelings.
You've seen so many different schools. Can you tell us about some principals who are doing a really good and innovative job?
So there's a...
Hey friends, I'm so excited to invite you to the Inclusion Matters podcast. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. A way for us to grow, spread our message, and make sure no one gets left behind. By subscribing, you're not just listening, you're part of something bigger. Together, we're changing the world. I promise to keep improving my communication every day, to bring amazing guests who will help us see life in new ways, and most of all, I promise to have fun. Thank you for believing in me and in us. Let's do this together.
Hey friends, it's Clara. Just a quick note, if you hear some silent parts in the podcast, it's because I'm using my AAC tablet to find the right words. It takes a little time. And to be honest, we don't have the funds right now for a fancy editor to cut everything perfectly. So, thanks for sticking with us and for listening.
Hey folks, hope you're doing well, and welcome back to the Inclusion Matters podcasts. We are your hosts, Aiden Boyer and Clara Woods. Professional overthinker at that. And today we're probably going to be overthinking a decent amount. In case you haven't figured out by now, we were discussing overthinking a decent amount because it was on her shirt. And you mentioned overthinking, but I wasn't sure if you meant overthinking, like really, really overthinking, or overthinking is something you're over.
I'm just overthinking.
Yeah, you're just over. but what does that mean? Anyways, it's all about the semantics, right? But today we have the amazing overthinker extraordinary. I'm just kidding. That's not what it's about. But we got the amazing speaker, advocate, mental health advocate, Jared Scott with us today. And I am... also a youth speaker as well, and it's something that I have been dying to get better at. I'm kind of a novice youth speaker. I know you've done it a couple times. I think you guys collabed, right, recently on a youth speaking thing. That sounds like it was absolutely awesome. I'd love to hear more about that, so we can get into that a bit later. But what do you say, Clara? We kick us off strong with just some really deep questions. We got some deep questions for you. We're going to go all in. We like to go all in on this podcast.
All right, bring it.
Yeah, bring it. And don't overthink it. Just choose a question. We came prepared.
Gerald, I'm so happy to be an ambassador for the Culture Shift program. I've had such meaningful experiences visiting the school with you. I've been thinking, how do you handle it when kids open up and share really hard or sad stories? It must be tough knowing you can't help everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something early on in my career when I was a kid traveling, speaking to kids, because I started when I was like 15. And so when I was 15 all the way till about 23, that age, I feel like I wasn't equipped enough to really help kids. And that a lot of the times would leave me feeling hopeless. Like I'd get up on the stage and I'd preach hope from the stage, but when I got home or to the hotel, I felt hopeless, like I couldn't help them, exactly what you're talking about. So I decided to go back to school to gain some more knowledge and some more insight so maybe I could give better answers in my programs and I could at least teach them how to help themselves. Because that is true what you're saying, like you can't help everybody, and at the end of the day, it's up to people individually to help themselves. Like you can try to help them, but if they don't help themselves, they'll still end up helpless at the end of the day. And so you have to teach them how to do it. And so that's really my answer to that, is that I would rather somebody know how to get themselves out of a hole than to just reach down and pull them out of the hole without them getting the knowledge of how to do it the next time they're down again.
Absolutely. It's a total mix of putting the work within yourself and getting another person to motivate you to put the work, you know, within yourself. Help isn't solely just relying on somebody to do something for you all the time. It's a collective effort, you know. And I think we covered pretty big already with that question that kicked us off, which was very good. The kind of stuff you talk about, and I think that's really, really cool. It's powerful. Youth speaking is really so fun, and I'm sure you can attest to that. Granted, you're definitely way more experienced with youth speaking than I have. I've only done a couple. But you know, I think that it's so cool that you cover that sort of thing, just any kind of help and motivation for the students. Do you have many different speeches that you put together that cover different topics for like different schools? Like they might ask for one thing or...
Yeah, for sure. So just over the years, we've asked schools for their input. Like, what are your challenges? What do you think your students are dealing with? And then we do breakout sessions with students that tell us their challenges. And they'll write them down on a big piece of paper. And after you go to over 1,000 schools, like we've been to, you start to notice what students write down the most. And so those become the hot topics, the ones that we start to put into the main program.
Gotcha.
You know, 10 years ago, you know, social media was a big challenge, but it wasn't as big as it is today. You know, now social media is on everybody's page. You know, social media is one of the biggest challenges, top challenges everywhere we go. How to handle yourself online, how to be what they call a social citizen now, you know, social media citizen, you know, all that stuff. So, you know, the challenges change and the students tell us what they're dealing with. And then, so the program's always evolving.
So you gather input from the students. Do you do it if, let's say you have an appointment with the school coming up, do you do all of that before you go to the school?
So we'll do it with the staff beforehand, and the staff always tells us something different than the students. I mean, 9 times out of 10, like we'll ask the staff, hey, give me your top 10 challenges that you think your students are dealing with. And then when we do the leadership class, when we're there in person, you know, the kids will write down their top challenges, and if you put those two papers next to each other, you clearly see the disconnection, right? And sometimes it's just a generational thing, you know, so you know, the counselors and the teachers and the principals put themselves in the students' shoes and remembered back when they were in school what the top 10 challenges were to them, but it's just such a different time with different pressures, and that was usually what brings the disconnection between the staff and the students is just the misunderstanding.
Do you usually speak at like middle schools and high schools, like grade schools?
Yeah, middle schools, high schools. We love middle schools. When we've gone to schools, the middle schoolers are the ones that mob you afterwards, want you to sign everything. We bring the papers. You guys brought those papers, and everybody started signing those. Like middle schoolers, they're fans. You know? But also they're at an age where, you know, their brains are being molded and they're still open to change. Sometimes high schoolers can feel very like too cool for school in a way, you know, so it's hard to get to them in the beginning. But I will say after high schools, I get all the messages on Instagram. And so they don't want to show that it reached them there in person.
They just want to.
But they'll hit you up later on Instagram like, oh, dude, that changed my life, or that was amazing, or thank you so much for coming. But they've just created a persona that they have to pretend to be around their friends, and they can't be seen being vulnerable a lot of the times. But that's a big piece of the program. It's just getting kids to tell their truth and be honest with who they are.
Did you have a hard time kind of like opening up to certain people about your struggles in high school? Sometimes. But like in the realm of this, Well, you're fairly recently out of high school, though. Did you come to Clara's school?
No, I didn't come to Clara's school.
Okay.
I was a fan.
You were a fan of Clara? Okay, cool.
For a while before, I've watched your videos for years. As you know, I've told you a million times. You already know the story, but that's, it's very rare. I see a lot of people, and I see a lot of people's stories, and I hear a lot of stories, and it's very rare for somebody's story to literally just bring me to tears, right?
Yeah,
watching it on the phone and never had met them in person yet.
Yeah.
And so I was like, there's something about her that's special, and it's deeper than just you. I mean, it's your family. Your family is amazing. And I preach to people all the time about you guys.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, it's the family unit of you all that makes everything that the Inclusion Matters stands for so brilliant and perfect, and just everything that the Culture Shift stands for. And so that's why we collab. That's why I'm here. And that's why I push your message. Literally, your video's played in every school that I go. Every school that I go.
That's awesome.
Because it needs to be.
Yeah. I second that wholeheartedly. In case you haven't figured out by now, you're pretty cool, Clara. It's an honor to be doing the podcast with you and to be amplifying these messages of inclusion very much significantly mattering and creating a culture shift. Speaking of culture shift, I really like that term, culture shift. What is it, though, exactly? And, what does the culture shift look like? And have you seen it unfold in front of you after your speeches? Yeah,
it's everything about the culture shift was built from trial and error and just seeing it in person happen in front of my eyes. Mm-hmm. The first part of it, first of all, culture is the personality of a place. Mm-hmm. It's the way we do things around here.
That's a great definition. I'm stealing that. Yeah.
Well, because the climate is usually what it gets confused with, and the climate is somebody's attitude. So my background's in psychology.
Wow.
So
I'm
thinking about things in the realm of personalities and attitudes and moods and stuff like that, and the way that they swing and they come and they go, right? Uh-huh. So usually when a speaker would come to our school, they would change the climate. They would be really loud and they'd be really upbeat, and then everybody would be cheering and happy for the day. Yeah. But then things would go back to the culture.
Right. Uh-huh.
The personality, the way we do things around here, the deeper behavioral pattern of that place that's been there way before those kids even went to school there, way before they were even born. These schools hundreds of years old. Yeah. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you have these schools that have these cultural patterns from way back, and they haven't changed with the times, right? Yeah. So I always thought, we're not bringing lasting change by just shifting the culture, changing people's attitudes, or making them feel good for the moment. Yeah. We got to do something that is consistent and persistent and relentless over time, so it actually changes the culture. Because if I asked you to change your personality, how long would that take you? But I can tell you to change your attitude. We can get that together real quick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Take a couple deep breaths and you can slow down, right? And you can change your attitude.
Both are hard, but definitely changing, my...
You're going to have 10 attitudes before the end of the day.
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if I ask you to change your personality, it's going to take you, speaking psychologically, you'd have to do the same thing for about 21 days if you're under the age of 30. And once you're over 30, about 120 days of repetition before you create new neural habits and patterns and become a new person. Yeah. So I look at the school the same way. Yeah. I'm like, all right, we're going to have to actually do something that's put in place that we actually make change and create change for 120 plus days. Every day, let's do something that we do every day. That's where the movement comes in place. Yeah. It's not just a thing that we say. It's a thing that we do.
Exactly. I'm sure it has a very profound impact on so many students. I love hearing about that because I'm deeply passionate about that. It makes me think of, the people in our lives, Clara, you and I, who have kind of changed our lives for the better. And, for me, I would say it's Chris Martin, the frontman of Coldplay, absolutely just huge inspiration, or just Coldplay in general. For you, it was definitely Frida Kahlo, right? Yeah. Do you feel like, hearing about Frida Kahlo and her story, really, changed something in you? Do you feel like it was a big stepping stone? Yeah, definitely. Well, it ultimately made you want to, really go full throttle with art, right? Yeah, absolutely. I love all of that, and it's weird, though, thinking about how, I was that person for somebody else. That's definitely odd to think about, but I know what you mean. I felt that impact. I've gotten messages from people, from students from the school I spoke at in Wisconsin. Huge shout out to DC Everest schools in Wisconsin, by the way. And just, after my experience on American Idol and even on, the Jubilee YouTube channel, it's just been the amount of messages I read them, and it's crazy to think that I've had that impact,
And what are the qualities and characteristics in the lead singer of Coldplay? Like, what do you see in him that you were like, this is somebody worthy of following?
Well, one, it's the sound. I was so attracted to this deep, deep, hypnotic, highly reverberated sound of Coldplay, but also just the uplifting feel about everything. The joy that Chris Martin exudes, the happiness and the positivity and the optimism is just that combined with just the sound of Coldplay just really, really, really spoke to me. It's hard to put into words, but it was the joy, and it was about how, the band really wants to make the world a better place. Like, even hearing about, their green initiatives with, their most recent tour has just been amazing. Kinetic, energy-powered dance floors, and, awesome. People can go on exercise bikes, and it helps power the concert. It's crazy. It's things like that really, really speak to me.
What's crazy for me is, since I started this so young, a lot of my heroes, and it sounds weird to say it as an adult, but kids are like heroes to me. Because I travel and I speak to so many kids, and I see what they're going through. I see what they're going home to. I see how they still show up every day. I see how they handle life, like Clara has. Another student, Grayson, you might know of Grayson, I don't know, but another student, he was born blind, and he's a drummer. And it's just like all of the obstacles that students have gone through, yet they get through, and they're making it happen every day. It's like, you would think that all of the people you look up to and you admire would be older than you all the time, but I'm almost 30 years old, and I find myself just being amazed by 19-year-olds that are changing the world, you know, and that's where my heart is when I hear people upset with the younger generations. They're not this enough, they're not that enough, they're not. I'm like, dude, there's nothing that'll get me upset faster than that, bro. I promise you, dude.
Than people being pessimistic about the
younger generation,
the future generation.
They're amazing.
That reminds me, I was in Boston and I did a concert called Stars of the Spectrum. It was really, really fun. It was a predominantly autistic music lineup. For a big festival. It was amazing. It's this awesome organization I work with called the Flutie Foundation. And I was just taking a break. Like, I performed. It was a lot of fun, but there were like thousands of people there. And I just I'm a little bit of an introvert, so I just wanted to kind of go off to the side and just, take a deep breath and just sit off to the side. But I think to this 3-year-old girl that walked up to me, it looked like I was just like lonely and had no friends or something. Which I am a lot of the time, but in that moment I wasn't. But she walked up to me completely on her own with her, grandmother or some guardian watching in the background, looked me dead in the eye, stuck out her hand, and she said, "Friends?" Oh my God. Did you hear about this? Did I tell you about this? No, this is news to you, right? Yeah, I mean, it's still news to me, even like just talk. But this was this past August. It was so profound. It was straight out of a movie. I could not believe it happened.
They can feel. They speak.
It was crazy.
Feelings and emotion.
It was crazy, and I overwhelming audience of this concert were all autism families. So whether she was on the spectrum herself or she had a sibling on the autism spectrum, it's like either she saw that longing, I guess, in me, and she just wanted to reach out. It was crazy. It was so profound and it was so beautiful, and I will never forget it as long as I live. I still can't believe that happened. It's crazy. It's beautiful. Yeah, that would be someone that I would deem a hero too for me. Someone way younger than me. Yeah.
Yeah, man, my whole life, especially starting this career so young, you get told that you're young all the time, or you're too young, and then you get to a point where people start telling you too old for stuff, and it's like, man, age has got to be the biggest lie we've ever been told. Yeah. I'm serious.
Yeah. Well, it helps, being you're someone who's almost 30. I'm slowly approaching 30. I'm right in between. I'm 24. So I've been, and I worked as a high school music theory teacher for 2 years. And I found that it was just so hard to, reach kids sometimes. And, especially since, I've got autism, there's a lot going on in here,
Mm-hmm.
Trying to figure out how to relate to other people. And just, there's a big struggle with that. I got to ask, what are some of your best, personal best ways of engaging with youth audiences?
I think that we as human beings relate through our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I think we get caught up in the circumstances and we think that we all have to be in the exact same boat
Mm-hmm.
to be able to relate to each other.
Yeah.
And we wait till somebody's in the perfect circumstances before we're honest with them and tell them how we feel and tell them the truth.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, that moment may never come
Mm-hmm.
because we're all different. That's the only thing that makes us the same
Yeah.
in a way, you know?
Yeah.
And the reality is that since we're all different, I could put myself in your shoes and have empathy for you. That's great. But I can never put myself in your head and know exactly what it's like to be you and see life through your perspective. So I have to.
I'm going to steal all of these. This is so good.
But that's important because I feel like the reason you don't reach people when you're trying to reach people is because you're trying to pretend like you know exactly what it's like to be them. You're trying to be so relatable as an adult talking to younger kids like, look at me, I know your music, I know your shows. No, you don't. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, you
Yeah.
don't know them like they know them. That's their thing. This is their life. You don't know what it's like to be in middle school in 2025. You don't know that.
Yeah.
So I don't show up pretending to know that.
Yeah.
I show up just talking about how it feels to be me and encouraging them to tell me how it feels to be them, and then we can relate through mutual feelings.
Through mutual it's feelings more than anything. It's not just the surface
I know that's how
things.
you communicate,
Yeah.
through feelings,
Yeah.
through emotions. That's how you and your mom have this telepathic way of speaking. I remember the first time we were hanging out. I mean, you could just feel. You wasn't even signing that much. You were just feeling, and she knew exactly what you were saying, and exactly what you needed, and exactly what you wanted. And to me, it was just proof of everything that I've preached all around the country. I'm like, emotions are even more important than the words. You could say something to me. You could even say that you loved me, but not mean it and not feel it, and it don't matter. The words were hollow.
Yeah.
It's the emotion that matters.
Yeah.
So when I show up, I'm not going to just say a bunch of things that sound good. I'm going to show you my heart, and I'm going to tell you how it feels. And you can relate to those emotions. And then afterwards, you're going to feel courageous or comfortable enough to come tell me how you feel. And then we build relationships. Then we push back against all the feelings that we felt alone in.
Yeah.
Now we get to do it together.
I love that because I've always said that music is so much more of an authentic means of communication.
That's a good segue. Yep.
For me than anything else. Would you feel that way for art? It just feels like so much easier to communicate, And yeah, the amount of my stuff, is the stuff I write is based off of my experience with autism and just trying to relate to the world around me and just trying to cope with everything. But it ultimately has a universal message that seems to reach people of all neurotypes. And so I feel that big time. I'm definitely stealing that for sure.
Well, I think, when you look at one of your paintings, for example, words can't describe it. Why? Because it was painted with feelings.
Yeah.
That's
my favorite
all
kind of
great.
art.
That's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
all great art.
Yeah.
If you can describe it with words, we didn't do good enough.
Yeah.
Because you want to leave somebody speechless because really you put your heart and your soul into it, and that's something that can't really be explained.
Yeah.
And I actually talk about that in my presentations. I tell kids, this whole thing started with music, by the way.
Yeah,
I make
'cause
music.
you're a musician too, that's right,
And so
yeah.
I really just put my feelings and my emotions into a song and then went to the school to rap that song. And the song was about one of my friends that lost her life to suicide.
Yeah.
And that's how this whole thing started. Because I
Yeah.
was a shy kid.
Yeah.
So I keep to myself, dude. I did not want to be a public speaker. But I wrote that song and just poured my feelings and my emotions into it. And I thought to myself, if she was feeling this way and nobody knew, how many other kids are feeling this way and they're going unnoticed? So if I can at least write this song, and then I could rap this song in the schools, maybe some kids that are out there in the audience that feel this might know that they're not alone in that feeling, and they could be here tomorrow. And that's as simple as the idea started, you know? And then it turned into this whole program and this whole thing, because it's deeper than just relating to each other and trauma bonding.
Yeah.
Because me and you could be sad together.
Yeah.
Me and you could cry together. But now we're just both sad. You know, somebody's got to figure out how to get out of this sadness and get ourselves up out of the hole, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where it started, and that's where it's at now.
Yeah.
You know,
it's great. It's a beautiful mission, man. I love it.
It's got a long way to go.
Yeah. I guess you can never truly be complete with, you know, there's always something new, you know, to learn.
Well, we're learning more about our brains.
And that too, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, so some of the things that were true 10 years ago are not true today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's for sure.
And a lot of the things that we did that we thought were helping 10 years ago were actually hurting.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, one of those things being just staying busy, distracted, do whatever you can not to think about it. You know, you get more work done, but you're piling up and you're suppressing emotions, which is causing stress, which is causing inflammation, which causes sickness and then illness and disease. And now that we understand that, you know, it's much more compelling for somebody to actually not think negative thoughts if they know the repercussion of those negative thoughts.
Right. Yeah.
Like when you were a kid and they tell you think positive, what was your reaction to that?
I've tried to the whole time.
Exactly. That's the reaction. You're like, I'm trying, right?
Yeah.
Like, but if I told you, well, the negative thoughts that you're thinking are actually destroying neural pathways in your brain. So in a way, negative thoughts are causing brain damage. Mm-hmm. You'd be like, what? But then, okay, that's scary. I don't like to teach out of fear. So then I'm going to tell you, then I'm going to flip the script and I'm going to say, but here's the good news. Every 10 seconds, you have the opportunity to choose a new neural pathway. You can change an I can't to an I can, and it replaces that. Mm-hmm. It creates and strengthens new connections in your brain. Mm-hmm. So if you did that 50 times a day, 100 times a day, you create 100 new connections in your brain.
Yeah.
This is why positive people are smarter. Mm-hmm. They have more neural connections. They can actually think through problems.
Yeah.
You see, if I explain that to you, all of a sudden now, because you know why and how, it seems much more doable.
It's much more doable, and it's much more optimistic as well, you know?
Yeah. So that's what I'm a big, I'm a spokesman for knowledge and the know-how.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. You're going to love our interview we did with Dr. Amen.
Oh, dude, he's one of my heroes, actually. I tell you that. I told your mom. That's especially my wife, especially Mackenzie, which you know. Mackenzie's excited. She'll be here next week. Yeah. But that's like her hero.
Yeah.
Hero. My mom, one of her good friends, got into an accident. She had fell off a horse and hit her head about, I'd say probably 5 years ago. And we bought her the Dr. Amen's book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. And this is how long we've been fans of this guy.
Yeah.
And, you know, that book can take people that had no hope that they were going to regain any cognitive ability, you know, things that people were telling her she would never be able to do again. You know, she was able to have this book read to her and then eventually read this book and regain the mental strength and clarity to be a normal person and think. And she didn't think that she was going to be able, they didn't know that she was going to recover at all.
Yeah.
You know, but when you have knowledge,
yeah,
when you have the know-how and you have people that are willing to sit there with you and help you and guide you through a process, you know, anything's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
so hard. What did he tell you? He was a super genius, like we all knew? I need to see the interview. Is it out?
Well, he thought very highly of you, you know, because pretty much all of our guests that we've had so far are people that she knew first and then were introduced to me. That's who we've got so far, and yeah, we all think very highly of you. This is the episode where we completely just throw all of the compliments on Clara.
Well, you're the reason why all of this is happening.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, do you ever think about that? Do you ever think about, I mean, seriously, because you're the overthinker, so you got to think about it.
Yeah. But also, you know, you don't want to feel too special all the time.
Look, there's a saying. It says, if you don't humble yourself, God will humiliate you.
Yeah. Okay.
Life will humiliate you, whatever you want to put.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, sometimes you do have to like pause though. Because sometimes we get lost and we think that like we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not this and that. Because that happens to me, and then people will stop me like, bro, like we're only doing the things that we're doing because of all the things that you did, you know. And it's like we're sitting here having this conversation on this podcast. Dr. Amen was on your podcast, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like because of the credible things that you've created with your mind. You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
what was the thing you said just now? You're only doing the things you're doing because of the things you did.
Yeah.
Was that it? Okay.
I mean,
yeah, I'm stealing that. When this comes out, I'm just gonna watch all of these moments, and I'm just gonna repeat so much of this to myself because my mind, it just gets continuously exploding with knowledge every episode. I love doing this so much. It's life changing. I love it. It's so amazing. Clara, since we have been absolutely just showering you with compliments, I realized that I actually asked 2 questions. So I'm going to give you the floor and give you the stage to ask Jared 2 questions in a row. So don't overthink it. Just what we got.
Can you share a good and impactful story that happened at one of the school events, one that had a happy ending?
So I got a new one for you. See this? It's a tattoo. It's not a marker. Okay, so there was a little girl up in North California. She was in the leadership class. Everybody was writing on the papers. They're supposed to write their challenges and how it feels to be them. And this little girl was not writing anything on the paper, but she was writing all over her arms and her legs, which little girls do all the time, right?
Did you do that? No. Okay.
No. Okay. She paints pictures, bro.
Yeah.
But no, this little girl was, and she had Sharpie too. So I'm going over there and I'm thinking like, we could put that on the paper, because she's run out of space.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, do you have anything to write down? Like, what are some of the challenges? I'm starting to ask her deeper questions to get deeper answers. And she was kind of ignoring me. And then she just grabbed my hand and she starts drawing on my hand. Right, and she starts drawing on my arms, and she's writing some like sad, depressed. She's writing things like that, and one of her friends stops her, and she goes, "Hey, like he's gonna have to go places after this, and people are gonna look at him like he's weird, like." And the funny thing is afterwards I had to go get my fingerprint scanned to go to another school in California. I had to do this like background check thing.
Right.
So that like went into my mind. I was like, oh man, this girl's right. Like I'm about to have to go get my fingerprint scanned, and I'm gonna have sad, depressed, all this stuff written all over my hands. And the little girl stopped and she looked over at the little girl and she goes, well, that's how it feels to be me. She said, people look at me and they judge me all the time, and this is how I feel. And like, you see how that felt when I said that all of a sudden, like that feeling hit me in that moment. And I was like, okay.
We lost sight of why she was doing that. In that
moment. Yeah. And so I got chills right now thinking about it. And so I looked down at my hand and there was one thing that was positive, and it was a smiley face. And I had just got done talking to him about picking out the positivity, picking out the parts of our lives that we have control over, making decisions, controlling that, but then changing our reactions to the parts that we can't control, And so I said, I would tell you what, I'm gonna pick out the positivity here, this little smiley face. I'm gonna get it tattooed, so I never forget how it feels to be you. So that at least somebody knows what it feels like to be you, and you're not alone in your feelings. And so that's the story of this tattoo. And I think it's a happy ending because we end in not feeling alone, And that's how she felt.
Yeah. That's powerful, man. Damn.
She got me, but see,
that's also straight out of a movie.
But that's kids, bro.
But it's kids, and it's beautiful and it's real, and just keeping it real.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna be thinking about that too. maybe that if I find myself in a situation like that, then that might be my first excuse to get a tattoo, because I don't have any yet. But
and I was excited about it because
Yeah.
I hadn't had a tattoo in a while, so I was like,
gotcha.
what, this is a good idea.
Yeah.
But no, another point to that story, honestly, is that a lot of times I feel like people get tattoos after traumatic experiences.
yeah, I've noticed. Yeah.
And so, like, people can almost look at their tattoos and be like, this happened after this happened, this happened after this happened, Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I've never got one that I just got because something good happened,
Yeah. Right.
So I was like, this is something powerful to remember.
Yeah. I saw a tattoo that had the world map on their back, and like a new dot would come on every time with every place they've traveled.
I like that.
I thought that was like the coolest thing. It's probably my personal favorite tattoo. And tattoo design, I've seen it, that's something that I would be the most likely to put on myself as a touring musician who loves traveling. And,
I like that.
So yeah, no, that's great. I love that. And it looks authentic too.
You got another one?
Yeah. Throw it out there.
I know you're having a baby girl soon. How's life going with almost 3 kids, traveling all the time, and still working so hard to bring a positive impact to so many students? Are you ever stressed?
Always.
And if you are, how do you deal with it?
Always, and music.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, baby girl's a blessing. I've prayed for baby girl for a really long time. I know the change that she's going to create in me is something that I can't even imagine right now. I have several friends that have daughters, and they just keep telling me, like, it's just not the same, daddy's girl type of thing. It's like your daughter just changes you in a way that you can't even imagine. So I know that change is coming, and I am somebody who looks forward to growth and as much change as possible. So that's why I've prayed for a daughter. I know this is going to change my heart. And the part about 3 kids, like, we're outnumbered now, me and my wife, We're already having to divide and conquer. So, like, I'll take Mason one day to breakfast, and then my wife will take Jaden the next day, and we kind of divide a little bit so they can get some one-on-one time and some quality time with each of us. And so I know that when we're outnumbered and we have 3, like, it's gonna be hard. But anything in life that's worth having is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, anything, right? If it was easy, then it wouldn't even feel like it was worth it. So I know it's gonna be hard. Don't really even know how we're gonna do it, but we're just trusting in God that it's gonna be good, because everything He does is good. Like, what I'm saying? At the end of the day, He's not gonna leave us. We've come this far. This is what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's some sort of comfort that you get, kind of like you guys have, honestly, when you're on your mission that is your God-given mission, that even when you do come across obstacles and barriers or turning points in your life where there's uncertainty and you're scared, you just know that it's going to be okay because it was okay the last 30 times that it happened, and you didn't see a way forward then. You don't see a way forward now, but yet you're here, So I don't know how He's going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it. But we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the stress part is something that I have to work on. I'm not going to pretend like I got this stress thing together. There's probably like bi-monthly breakdowns that I have, especially with everything that's going on in education right now, the Department of Education and all that stuff, lack of funding for mental health and, inclusion stuff and all the stuff that we do and what we stand for. They're losing budgets for, they're cutting stuff left and right. So there's a lot of uncertainty in our world, but we're not going to quit the mission.
Yeah.
So what choice do we really have, right?
Yeah.
We show up, you show up and paint. I show up and speak. You show up and play. We do what we got to do. We do what we love to do and what we've always done. And we just hope that it'll work out.
Yeah. It's the arts, and it's the speaking, and it's delving deep into the feelings of what's possible that I think are so revolutionary, and it's so important.
Yeah.
Your mission and our art and our missions, and
The craziest thing is that in times of uncertainty, when things get the hardest for the artist, is actually when the artist is needed the most.
Exactly. And it's when the best art gets made too, oftentimes, you know.
Yeah. So when I've been the saddest in life is when I've created the best music.
Yeah.
And the best speeches. You know?
Yeah.
And I bet if
relatable.
you looked back at some of the paintings that you made, it was in some of the saddest, most angriest times of your life. And it's like you just really that's what the saying turning pain into purpose is. Repurposing your pain. Because you got to do something with it.
Yeah. You got to do something with it. And
You do have to do something with it.
yeah, it's crazy how some of the like lowest of the low moments in my life have been followed up by just huge,
The best moments.
huge highs, you know, turning around, you know, and just horrible, you know, awful things turn into just big victories afterwards.
I think it's a law. I think it's a universal law.
Yeah.
You know the law of conservation of energy?
I know that's a vocab term from like
It's,
high school, like science, but you'll have to.
It's that energy cannot be created nor destroyed.
Oh, yes.
It can
Yeah.
only be transferred from one form to another.
Right, yes, I remember.
So if you take pain or any negative emotion, which is energy,
Yeah,
into consideration, like it's not going nowhere.
yeah,
So you do have to do something with it.
yeah.
And I think that's why we say things are outlets.
Yeah,
And that we're like batteries, you know, and we have this magnetic field, is because you have to plug into something to get that energy out.
yeah,
I think we speak the way that we think, and things are actually just as they are. We speak very plainly. And so if you think about language and the way that things came to be, it's pretty straightforward. So if I'm feeling negative emotions and I go to school and I put my negative emotions onto you, I'm the bully.
yeah.
I put it back onto myself.
Hurt people.
Exactly. And there's the saying, you know, we have a saying for everything, right?
Yeah, we do.
The way that we feel. But when you put it back onto yourself, what's that? You know, negative self-talk, suicidal thoughts, self-harm. You suppress it, it becomes depression.
Yeah,
You express it, it becomes an expression. So when you think about those things
Depression and
that
expression.
clearly, you know, if you think
Yeah.
about that clearly when I explain that to kids, instead of just saying bullying's bad, let me just tell you, you're feeling negative emotions at home, you're putting it on to somebody else, they have to go somewhere, you got to do something with it.
yeah,
You distract yourself, suppressed emotions becomes depression, then it becomes the sickness, illness that we talked about,
Yeah.
because it causes stress hormones to be released throughout your body.
yeah,
And then your body starts to fight itself because it's trying to fight something off, and what it's trying to fight off is your feelings.
yeah, yeah,
That turns into an autoimmune disease.
yeah, yeah.
Dr. Amen will tell you that.
Yeah,
I learned it from
that's
him.
immediately thought of.
I learned it from him.
Thought of him. Yeah,
It is true. It causes so much stress and inflammation in our brains to worry.
yeah,
You know, so when you ask me about like how I handle the stress, I just remember what it's doing to my body. You know, and that at least helps me think like, well, no matter what I think right now about what could happen, what if this, what if that, and all the uncertainty, I'm definitely not going to make it better by doing that. I know that.
yeah,
I'm only going to make this worse. And truly, not just metaphorically speaking, like what's worse if everything's stressful and, you know, Department of Education's running out of money and, you know, everything that we do is getting shelved right now. Well, I could be sick on top of that because I worried myself sick.
yeah, yeah.
We have a saying for that too. Worry yourself sick. You see what I'm
sick,
saying?
yeah.
If you worried yourself sick, you can worry yourself better. You could think yourself better. We wouldn't say worry.
Yeah,
Your thoughts are very powerful.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's great. I think that gets me thinking about the people in my life that I'm surrounded by, because, you know, naturally, if I didn't have the support system and the help and support from other people, I'd probably be worrying myself sick significantly more.
Yep.
And just being surrounded by such loving people who care, who don't see me as just one thing. They see like the depth in me, you know, it helps big time, because then people because the people that I'm surrounded by are big reminders of what's good in the world. And it's because I've been in a culture that has been shifted, a decent amount. So to a very positive culture. Elementary school, I was just horribly bullied. Just people would throw things at me. It was horrible. Then I went to a middle and high school for performing arts where the bullying was just way less.
Yeah.
And I got to pursue my arts. And I was classically trained, and I did classical and opera, and it was so much fun and easier because I had the space. That's kind of what I talk about in my speeches is, when I'm in that environment where I'm given the space to flourish, because I'm not, because bullying is bad. Yeah, bullying is bad, but but it's so much more than that. Because when I was getting bullied, I'm constantly thinking about, oh my God, what do I do? How do I handle this? Because I don't want to feed into their ego, but it's just a lot of unnecessary thought and pressure. And I'm like, well, when I don't have to think about how to handle bullies, I have more time to do
You're in
art.
survival mode.
Yeah.
You're in survival.
You're in survival mode.
Here's what it comes from.
Yeah.
I think bullying.
Yeah.
It comes from uncertainty. And this is why the new kid gets bullied the most, because he's a stranger, and stranger equals danger. And if you're danger to me, then you're a threat to me, right? But if we lack communication skills, and say you're new, right? And I don't have communication skills, so I'm not going to come approach you and talk to you and ask you questions to get to know you. Instead, I'm going to assume who you are from the other side of the room with my group of friends that I already have and have had for a long time. So there's no uncertainty with them. I know who they are, right? Yeah. And so we assume from you, and then we have to label you. Because what does labeling do? It takes away the uncertainty. So I'm not so scared of you anymore.
Yeah.
And that's name calling. So then I'm going to take anything about your appearance, label you with it, even though I don't know you at all.
Yeah.
Just so I'm not scared of you anymore.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make a lot of sense?
Yeah, no, that definitely would explain things a lot better. Like I said, I'm going to take this and I'm going to watch these parts of the episode over and over just so they really get nailed into my head.
Well, we also see threats first. That's how our brains are wired, because that's how we stayed alive and evolved over time.
Yeah.
So I tell kids all the time, if there's a stick on the ground, it's a snake until you get close enough.
Yeah.
That's just what your mind sees.
Yeah.
And what do you do to something? You start to poke at it to see how it's going to respond. Wow. So that's what they do to the kid that's new. I'm going to poke and poke and poke and poke and see how you respond, to see if you're actually a threat to me or not. When we could avoid all of that by just having the communication skills, talking about our feelings, connecting to those mutual feelings, building relationships. All of a sudden the uncertainty's gone, the fear's gone, we can be friends.
Yeah.
It's actually, I say it's that easy, but that's hard because that's not how we're wired to be.
Yeah.
And that's actually, to me, why inclusion matters, is because since uncertainty brings on the fear that causes the threat feeling, that causes the bullying and the exclusion, then it's just simply not knowing somebody that causes all of those problems.
Yeah.
So if people are not included and they're excluded and nobody gets to know them for who they actually are, then we still have a disconnection problem.
Yeah.
And then schools will say that's a respect problem. Well, they don't respect the adults. They don't respect each other. They don't respect themselves. No, you don't have a respect problem. You have a connect problem. Y'all don't know each other. You don't know each other.
Yeah.
These kids are bullying those kids. These kids are bullying those kids because of this, and that. They just don't know those kids.
Yeah.
If you all knew each other, nobody would bully anybody, because you would realize at the end of the day that we're all human beings.
Yeah.
That we all love our friends and our family, and we're just trying to keep our families safe.
Yeah.
We're just trying to eat, survive, live. That's it.
We exchange energy with each other.
That's literally it, right?
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, if everybody knew that and knew how it felt to be a human being, which you all do, then we all could be included. There would be no exclusion.
Yeah.
And therefore, there would be none of this bullying and all the stuff that we talk about and leaving people out and all that stuff. It's just, that's why I try to get to the root of it with the kids instead of saying, don't bully, don't do this, don't do that. It's because it's just much deeper than that, and it's actually more simpler than that. The truth is very simple.
Yeah. That's probably the most concrete explanation that I've heard for why inclusion matters. you know, and it's like that's it. So I'm in case you haven't heard me say this already many times, I'm stealing that.
yeah, dude. You can have it.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's why inclusion matters. I mean, that does it. I mean, all the answers that we've gotten from all of our guests have been amazing, but that one was like just concrete, and it was completely. That was it. That hit the nail right there. Beautiful.
It's harder to include everybody.
Yeah.
And that's what we get pushback from schools sometimes when we try to do extra things.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, I'm going to bring this person. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. We want to do this. We want to, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but we wanted to do a drum solo. We wanted to let Grayson do a drum solo. I told you the kid, he's 10 years old. He was born blind. He wanted to do a drum solo. And one school was like, no, we don't want to do any of the extra stuff.
Extra stuff, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you exactly what I told my wife to tell him when she texted me that. And I was like, well, you see, including people is not always the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
But that's why inclusion matters.
Yeah.
Is because there are kids out there in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
There's Graysons out there.
Yeah.
There's kids out there looking at the example that adults are setting by saying this is too hard.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to do the extra. We don't go to the extra mile for people. It's like the example that we're setting is that we do what is comfortable for us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I don't even really have the words for it yet because as you can tell, I'm just kind of upset about it. This is pretty recent.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's why I do what I do, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, because at the end of the day, we are all just human beings trying to be a part of something.
Yeah.
And my God, if we can't be human, what can we be?
Yeah, exactly. And also that got me thinking, if they said no to the 10-year-old drummer, do you think maybe they're thinking, oh, you're giving him special treatment?
No, they just didn't even want to bring the drum set in. They didn't want to, you know what I'm saying? Like, they just didn't want to do the extra things to accommodate people.
Yeah.
Because
it's not giving special treatment.
Well, because here's the thing.
Yeah.
People are just trying to do enough to get by.
Yeah.
Nobody's really trying to succeed, it feels like. People are just trying, I tell people all the time, it feels like to me that people are just trying not to fail.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not trying to succeed or for us all to win or have a win-win scenario. They're just trying to check a few boxes to say that they did something good, but they're not trying to do the biggest, best possible thing that would benefit everybody.
Yeah.
And I get it because it's not easy. And I know you guys get it because, you could paint your paintings, you could sell your paintings, you could make a living, but you decided to create a movement. Why? Well, because you care about other people. And you want other people to be inspired by what you do so that way they can do great things too. And so that requires you to put money back into it and give to people or do things for free or for cheap. And that's what we do. We do that over and over and over again every year at the Culture Shift Tour to the point that some years we lose thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. And it's like, well, of course we could just go to some schools, save money, and not do all the extra stuff. But to me, it's not extra. It's what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's people over anything else. People over profit. People over all of that. Yeah.
Well, the highest possible good over everything else.
Yeah.
Meaning the win-win scenario, the best possible outcome. That's what we're aiming for. If I win and you lose, then we didn't really win.
Yeah. Everybody has to win. It should be a win-win. Yeah.
That's actually the only option, or we just all lose together. Like, are you willing to do that with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And some years we do just all lose together, but we're not, to me, that's just a chapter in this book. It's not the full story. In the end, we win.
Yeah. Yeah, like being in or curating win-lose situations with other people or lose-win situations just never made sense to me.
It's disguised as a win-lose, but it's really lose-lose because you won't be able to live with it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not winning in the end when you know you caused somebody else to lose.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you gave that. That's why I'm very glad you gave the insight on bullying and that answer you gave as to exactly why it would happen with someone who's unfamiliar to them. Yeah.
And I think your generation is going to end it, to be honest. And the younger kids, I travel a lot, and I know people that don't travel, that don't have kids maybe, or their kids have been out of school for a while. They don't think that that's possible. You know, I think that they think things will always be that way because things have always been that way. You know, we get stuck in our ways sometimes and we think that way. But I travel the country and I see kids that are not going to allow anyone to be racist, prejudiced, anyone to judge anyone. Like, I see kids that are no BS for that. They're not going to stand for it.
Yeah.
And that's in your generation. And the kids younger than you, they really not going to stand for it. And it's going to upset some people that are in the older generations, but they're going to put their foot down really hard.
Yeah.
And everybody is going to be included. They can
I see
cut
it too.
whatever budget they want to cut. They're not going to change people's hearts.
You can't change the human spirit of loving each other and respecting each other and seeing people for you know, the fact that, you know, you're a companion of this thing called life. You're on this ride called life with you, and, you know, our experiences may be different, but we're just trying to live life together, you know. So yeah, no, I'm honestly kind of verklempt. It's powerful. It's powerful. I would have loved to hear you when I was in high school for sure. Great stuff, man. All right, I should ask a question real quick too, and then I think we'll have you ask one more after, and then okay. We've covered a lot of deep stuff. I know we said, okay, here we go. It's about to get deep, and now we're closer to the end of the podcast. We've covered a lot of deep stuff, but now I want to ask you about the business side of speaking, because it's something that I really want to do more of. You know, I'm looking ahead. I'm hoping to start performing in the college circuit. You know, I want to like attend NACA and, you know, conventions like that, and you know, do stuff like that. I really want to do that. But how can I get more speaking gigs at grade schools? How do you get your gigs at grade schools? Do you do cold emails?
Yeah. We do a lot of cold emails. I have a company that's called Lead Hive. Me and one of my friends, his name is Joey.
Yeah.
And shout out to Joey, great human being, one of the greatest human beings that I know, to be honest. And he's a systems guy. I have ADHD. So I'm not a systems guy.
Clara's laughing because she probably,
I'm all over the
you
place.
Understand, because you also have ADHD.
I need the shirt. I mean, I'll just be honest with you. When I met Joey came and took a look inside of my business, and it was probably like looking into a hoarder's house, you know, like I'm serious, man. Like it was bad. And I'll never forget, he said, I don't know how you've made money. Because I'm transparent. Like when I met Joey, we still make a lot of money speaking. We just spend a lot of money doing it. And when I say, you know, we'll have years of $100, $200, $300,000 plus of speaking, right? For example, one year we made over $500,000. We spent $486,000 of it.
Yeah.
And when I did the math on that, I could have made more money being a manager at Chili's.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can make a quarter to $500,000 and still be broke.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, but I have multiple businesses. So I have Lead Hive, and that is a email outreach CRM system for speakers, for business owners, for anybody that needs to send tens of thousands of cold emails a month and then be able to organize those and follow up with them with automations and all of that stuff.
I could use that because I send
everyone can use that.
So I send every day. I send and read and just email after email after.
That was me, bro. I thought I was good by like figuring out the fastest pattern to do it, right? But we live in 2025.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm fine with technology. I'm good with technology. I use a lot of AI systems and stuff, but it was a control thing with me. It was just me and my wife. You know, we told ourselves like we were making money. Like we just figured that somebody would come along and save us. And you know, luckily we met Joey, and he kind of did that, but he also taught us how to do it. And now me and my wife run it ourselves for our own business. But then once it worked for us, man, we were just like, we got to, open this up to other speakers and other people. And so we work with Jeremy Anderson, Eric Thomas. There's some speakers. I don't know if you know these guys.
I've heard of Jeremy Anderson. I've not heard of the other people, though.
Eric is, they call him the hip-hop preacher.
Yeah.
He's somebody, I listened to him in high school. Great husbands and fathers and leaders and mentors. And I can't say enough amazing things about these two guys. They've helped me. Jeremy's changed my life, by the way. So we've partnered with them and his company called Next Level Speakers. And so a lot of his speakers use our system. And so me and Joey built that business up to a six-figure business. And that's Joey's main business. That's what he runs mainly. And I'm kind of like the spokesman, front guy for that does what I'm doing now, just telling you about it, right? But that is how we book gigs, is numbers, man. Like, we will reach out to the whole United States. I got a list of 88,000 plus principals, even more, teachers, superintendents, counselors, and we'll send anywhere from 10 to 15, 20,000 emails a month.
Yeah.
And just so you know, it's about 1,000 to 1 ratio. So that means we have to reach out to about 1,000 people before maybe we get 10 booked calls.
Yeah.
And this is cold, not warm. Warm's different. And then from those 10 calls, we could book 2 to 3 gigs.
Yeah.
If they have funding now.
Yeah.
Everybody says, that we want this because we have enough social proof now, but the money's the issue.
Yeah.
So now we're starting to work with sponsors. Trying to find sponsors, big corporations like the Chick-fil-A's and the people like that could give, money to the Culture Shift Tour. So we can then call the schools and just say, hey, we already have the funds for the program. Do you want it? Yes or no? And we already have a list of hundreds of schools that already said yes, they just don't have the funds. So then it'd just be calling them back and saying, hey, good news, we found the money and we're coming to your school.
Yeah.
So there's multiple ways that you could do that as a speaker, man. It's like, you could go find the funds first. You could partner with nonprofits that already want to do what you're trying to do in the schools. And then you could go from a top-down approach, come to the school, say, hey, this nonprofit, the United Way, is going to fund me to come to your school to deliver this program. What day would work for you? Basically, at that point, it's free. Or you could do the numbers game, email a bunch of people. I recommend you do it all.
Yeah.
How
do you, I could go on and on about this, but yeah, no, that's awesome. I want to reach people as much as possible. And, just that one completely random school in the middle of nowhere, northern Wisconsin was about a year ago. I still miss
it changed your life. I already know.
It did. I wrote my most recent single I released called Assurance. I wrote explicitly about that,
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was so fun, and you have that momentum from so many schools. How many schools? Like
we kind of lost count over 1,000.
Yeah.
And then I didn't want to make a number up, so I just always say over 1,000 because after that point, it's just. I worked for an agency, and so my first 7 years.
Oh, okay.
And so I would go and do anywhere from 50 to 80 plus engagements a year.
Yeah.
And I was with them for 7 years. And so you could do the math on that.
Okay.
And then we've done our own schools after that.
Gotcha.
And we've done our own schools from 25 to now almost 30, so 5 years of our own schools.
Yeah.
And then some programs that we have, where we send stuff to the schools that we don't have to be physically in the school to have the school have a culture shift program. So, the number is just gone, But yeah, over 1,000.
Nice.
Over 1,000.
I have to ask Clara, is this something that you've thought about doing? No. Well, your story already speaks for itself, so you're okay. Maybe my story also speaks for itself too, because we're both artists and we're both, we put art at the forefront of everything. But speaking, at schools is something that I am still very, very interested in doing personally. So
dude, I mean, you got me here.
Yeah.
Now, so you know me now.
I know. Yeah. It's pretty cool, man. Thank you very much. All right. Send us home. What last question do you have, Clara?
You've seen so many different schools. Can you tell us about some principals who are doing a really good and innovative job?
Yeah.
What are some examples that stood out to you?
So there's a principal named Nikki Slaw. Shout out to Nikki. She wrote a book, and I read her book before I went to her school. And she takes an approach where she tries to understand her students before she teaches them. That's the simplest way that I could put it. Instead of doing this one-size-fits-all model that all schools have done forever, that we know doesn't work, and we know from the statistics that it doesn't work. But she takes it even deeper than that. It's like personalized learning to each individual student. And she has her own school. It's in Utah. And she's able to do her own curriculum there. Now, how she's been able to do that and the logistics of that, I don't know. It's a special school. It's not like a regular public school. She gets to do her own curriculum. And kids like interview, and they tell you, like I went to her school, and there was this kid, his name's also Grayson. And he came up to me. As soon as I got there, he like shook my hand, looked me in the eyes. He told me about himself, who he was. Like he was talking about what he wanted to do when he graduated. And he's in 8th grade, 7th or 8th grade. And I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, like that was just one very confident kid, right? Nope. After the program, kids all, like, they seemed to know what they wanted to do. They all could tell you what the steps were to get to those goals. We did a breakout session afterwards, and usually I have to, like, really, push the kids to think deep. These kids were already there. Like, they were just 10 to 20 steps ahead of students at all the other public schools that I've gone to. And this wasn't like it was, I wouldn't say it was a private or a charter. It was different. It was just a different curriculum and a way that she was approaching learning in itself. And the kids all had nothing but positive things to say about the way that they learned there. Yeah. They didn't even grade the same way there. And I would butcher this if I tried to explain exactly how she graded. But the kids basically graded themselves. They were honest if they knew that they could have done better. Yeah. And it wasn't like failure was a bad thing.
Yeah.
I hate when people say, you better not fail, you better not fail, you better not fail, because failure is the foundation of success.
Yep.
It just is.
Yep.
And so if you make a child scared of failure, then they're eventually going to stop trying.
Yeah.
Period. Because they think, if I'm not supposed to fail, then maybe I shouldn't try. And so this school looked at failure like it was a good thing. Like it was a step closer to being better. And the kids were honest about their achievements. They were honest about their downfalls, and they could grade themselves. Now, at face value, when I tell you the kids got to grade themselves, you're thinking they just gave themselves hundreds, right?
Yeah, I wasn't what I was thinking, but I would imagine that's what a lot of people would think.
Like, oh, I get to grade myself. Like, I'm going to take shortcuts.
Obviously, there's something much deeper there.
Not when there's a culture of wanting to be better.
Yeah.
You see, the kids didn't want to say this was their best because they wanted to improve.
Yeah.
And why do they want to improve? Because they're not scared of failing. Yeah. Everybody wants to learn until you make them feel like they're bad at learning.
Yeah.
That's what happens in public schools. Kids don't hate learning.
Yeah.
That's all we do is learn.
Yeah.
They just hate feeling bad at learning.
Yeah.
And the way that the school's set up, it makes them feel like they're not good enough, that they're not smart enough, that they're not enough.
That one might be one of the most profound things you've said that resonates with me, because I think about this a lot. I'm always learning, and I've always said, well, but especially like the past couple of years since I'm 24 and I'm still living with my parents, and my dream is to be able to move to LA and launch my music career in ways that I want to launch it, and be able to see all the friends that I made in LA all the time, and I feel, and and I'm still learning how to be independent in a lot of ways too, because my autism or whatever reason it may be. But I say, I hate learning. It's too much. I'm learning too much at once, But I have to look at that a bit deeper now.
You don't hate learning. You hate the way that sometimes it makes you feel, right?
Yeah.
Because of the way that you learn, because you weren't taught the way that you specifically were supposed to be taught.
Yeah.
The way that you could learn.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a kid, I learned audibly. You can play me a song, bro, and I'll sing back the hook by the time it comes around the second time, word for word.
Yeah.
Audible is my thing.
Yeah.
I cannot read, dude. Like, I'll be honest with you. I have to read a sentence 3 or 4 times before it finally registers in my brain.
No, me too. I have reading comprehension struggles too.
But if you asked one of my teachers growing up, there was something wrong with me that I couldn't learn, like I didn't have the ability to learn. But in reality, I can learn pretty fast. It's just the way that the information was being delivered to me, specifically, was incorrect for me.
Yeah.
Made me feel like I was dumb.
Yeah.
Made me feel like I wasn't a good learner.
Yeah.
It's not that you're not a good learner.
Yeah. It's hard to, the way I've seen it is it's hard to, new information comes my way and I learn something and oftentimes I'm like, whoa, oh God, I don't feel like learning this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
But also embrace that.
Yeah.
Go on to the next thing that you do feel like learning.
Yeah.
See, that's with my ADHD.
Which is this.
Things
like,
going all over
all
the
the
place.
things I learned today. Man, I feel like learning this.
See, and the reality was it probably just wasn't interesting to you.
Yeah. If it involves like the proper way to, clean dishes, then it's definitely not going to be interesting. But if it's something like this, which is much more of my bread and butter, then yeah.
Yep.
That really gets me thinking.
There's certain things that we all have to learn.
Yeah.
So that way we can take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. And be the best version of ourselves. But there's some things that, especially in school today, modern school, that they're not necessary for everybody. And everyone knows this. If you used to say this back then, people would tell you to quit complaining about the system. But I've spoken in 1,000+ schools, and even the teachers and the people in those schools complain about the system. We don't learn things that we actually need to learn.
My parents are both teachers. They say it all the time. My mom especially teaches 4th grade. It's a lot of that all the time. She's like upset with the curriculum. And
here's where I knew that it was an obvious problem. Some of the best superintendents that I've met homeschool their kids.
Yeah.
You're talking about the person that runs the entire district.
Yeah.
Has a master's, most of them their doctorate.
Yeah.
In education.
Yeah.
And the system's so broke that they're like, wouldn't put my kids here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
and so
ironic, man.
love educators.
Yeah.
Absolutely love educators. There are people that have decided to help raise the future, literally, take less of a pay and do more work than anyone. Like, I don't care who you are. If you know that being a parent's hard and being a mom is hard, try being a teacher.
Yeah.
Because you're both.
Yeah.
And now you're asked to be a counselor on top of that.
Yeah.
And you're not getting paid well at all.
Yeah.
And you know it, and you could, especially if you're a counselor who has a master's degree and certifications, could go anywhere else and make way more money.
Yeah.
But they decide to stay and work with the kids because they love the kids.
Yeah.
They're some of the best human beings on this planet. And they will tell you that the system is broken.
Yeah.
And they won't be mad at me for saying it.
Yeah. I'm incredibly thankful for that an overwhelming majority of my teachers growing up were very sweet and nice and seemed to care and did what they could.
Yeah.
With the resources they had at the time, for sure.
Teachers save lives, dude. Every day. They may not realize it, some of them, but, there's like this narrative of like, artists and rap artists, and especially rappers, like my teacher didn't believe in me type of disses.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, it seems like it's just something that everybody says, even if they can't even pinpoint this one teacher. But I always like to, try to get people to also see that the other side of that is very true. I think everybody can at least remember at least one person in that building growing up that made the day manageable, you know?
I think about this guy that directed the opera I was in my senior year. He had a very profound impact on me. He was teaching with feeling.
Yeah.
And he was throwing in all those principles. He seemed totally knowledgeable of the things you were mentioning. He truly instilled a spark that was just amazing. Shout out to Mark LaManna if you're watching this.
Yep.
He was something else, man. And yeah, it's because of all these things. It's because of that. I tried my hardest to do that when I was teaching, and I have to remind myself that I did have that positive impact.
You've been on the front lines.
Yeah. Granted, I taught at the same high school I went to, actually. So I already kind of somewhat knew some of these kids. There was one kid, was the brother of someone who was my age that I grew up with that I taught, and he's like really, really naturally inclined with music theory, and he was just acing everything. But then some of my students in fact, most of the students that I had, music theory just did not come naturally to them whatsoever, or there's probably a better way of putting that, but you know what I mean.
I don't know the percentage, but I know it's very low of people that have true, this sounds bad when you say it, but like creatives are actually diamonds in the rough. They are actually like a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
Everybody loves to think that they're creative.
Yeah.
But a lot of people mimic more than they create.
Yeah.
Finding people that are true creators, the percentage is very small. So when you're in a school setting and you have everybody come through your doors, you're probably going to find a 20 or even lower percentage of kids that it actually like, wow, this is something that they are actually good at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clara, are you good at music theory?
Music theory is hard.
Just kidding.
Music theory itself is hard. It is.
Yeah, no, I saw a funny comic that was a music theory teacher saying, come on, it's not rocket science. And then a rocket science teacher saying, come on, it's not music theory.
Exactly. It's in a different realm, it is rocket science.
Yeah. Well, I kind of feel that way about visual art, if I'm being totally honest, and painting. That feels like rocket science.
I love to draw. That was another thing that, I was so impacted by your story, Claire. It was just drawing for me was also an escape when I was a kid.
Yeah. For me, it was always just music. It wasn't so much drawing. But we all have our niches, and they all fit into the category of art and expression. It's what it's all about. I got to tell you, man, my mind was blown today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much for being here, and I can't wait to see you guys, collab on some more stuff in the future. And hey, if you ever need it,
No, we do. We do, and we will.
Hit me up. I should have brought my cards. It's okay.
You don't need the cards.
I know you followed me on Instagram, so I followed you back.
Number after this, bro.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching Inclusion Matters podcast. Yeah, inclusion definitely
matters.
Yeah, that's for darn sure. If you watch this whole thing, your mind is probably blown right now. So do with it what you will. Change the world. You got this. Take care, folks, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Inclusion Matters podcast. Yeah. Cheers.